Hello friends, welcome to B.Tech, Object-Oriented Programming through C++, and the topic is difference between C and C++. Coming to differences between C and C++, generally we like to call C as a structure-oriented and procedural-oriented language, whereas coming to C++, and it is completely object-oriented programming language. And that is the first difference, as we know that C is a structural procedural oriented language and C++ is a non-procedural, that is object oriented language. And the second one is data is not protected in C, but whereas here we can provide data security in C++ with the concepts called hiding, nothing but abstraction we are providing to the data, as well as the code or nothing but operation applying on the data of the program or maybe solution. So this is one of the difference. Next one, inline functions are not supported by C++, whereas these inline functions are supported by C++, because inline functions concepts is generally used in C++ for making utilization of memory effectively, but this was not in C. Coming to next one, operator overloading is not possible in C, but whereas this operator overloading is one of the greatest feature added to this language C++, because we know that the object oriented programming generally consists of classes, and classes may contain the members like data and along with code, and sometimes we are applying their operations on data, basic primary data, and the compiler know that how to perform the operations on basic data types, but it doesn't know how to perform the operations on objects of the classes. So this operator overloading in C++ allows to apply the operations on objects of the classes. That is one of the greatest feature added in C++. Next one, top-down approach is used in program design. Generally in C language it is completely top-down approach, but whereas in C++ it is bottom-up approach in the designing of programs. Next one, no namespace feature is present in C, but whereas namespace feature is present in C++ for avoiding completely name collision during the designing of functions for a function modules for the program, and member functions inside the class, maybe some type of features completely adapted by using this namespace feature to in C++. Coming to the multiple declaration of global variables are allowed in C, but this feature is not allowed in C++. Allowing the design declaration of global variables, it is completely avoided in the language C++. Next one, in C, for input and output operations, this scanf and printf functions are used. Generally for input, nothing but input means we are giving data from keyboard to the computer program. So we use this scanf function, and everyone know how to use this scanf function in the program. And whereas coming to printf, and after whatever we processed and applying operations on data, the results may be displaying to the user by using this printf. This is called output operation. Output operation, nothing but we are getting some results after executing the program. That results or something information we are transferred to computer display for the user to collect the output from the program execution. And whereas in C++, this output and input operations are mainly based on the stream classes. So here we have two types of classes, input stream class, output stream class, and these are the some objects to for those classes for getting some operation to perform for input and output of the programs. Whereas this C in along with one special operator, two greater than symbols, this is used to getting some values from the keyboard, and whereas comes C out is displaying the information on the, here also one operator is less than, and it is one conditional operator, not type of that one, but it is completely for this input and output operations. Next one, mapping between data and function is difficult and complicated in C language, whereas this mapping between data and functions can be using easy in C++ by using these objects. So objects can make this data and along with function. So here data is nothing but a raw data for input for our programs to be operate and performing some operation, And here this function is nothing but an set of operations we are performing on the given data into the program logic. Here in C language we can call main function through other functions, but we cannot call main function through other functions in C++. So here it is completely know the concepts by everyone. In C we can call main function by using other, but this one is completely avoided in C++ language. Next one, C requires all variables to be defined at the starting of the scope. In the declarative section of the program where we started the execution, the first main function should contain the scope starts with this declaration of all variables whatever we are going to use in the programs. And in C++, it given some flexibility for the programmer and developer. Declaration of variable anywhere in the scope of the program, that is anywhere of your program you can define the variable, and there is no restriction of the starting of the scope you need to define variables. And but the only condition is at the time of its first use you should declare this variable anywhere of your program. This feature is added in C++ and helpful for developers not to remember every variable where which variable we are going to use. That will, whenever he wants to use any variable, just he can declare anywhere of your program and you can use that variable as it is. And no inheritance is possible in C++, but here inheritance is possible in C++. This inheritance is nothing but this feature is mainly adopted in C++. This is the one of the most important principle of object oriented technology or object oriented programming. Inheritance gives the reusability. By using this reusability we can reduce the designing of the codes and in further the times, and this is the most important feature. Next one, in C for memory allocation and deallocation for the variables or maybe functions like that. So malloc and calloc functions are used for memory allocation as well as free function for memory deallocation. So in C++, new and delete are the two keywords are introduced for the purpose of this memory allocation and deallocation. This new operator allocates the memory and delete operator deallocates the memory allocated for the objects by constructors, and we know that constructor and destructor are available in C++ language. And also it supports built-in and primitive data types in C, and it is very natural feature in every language. It built-in type and primitive data types, whereas it supports both built-in type and user-defined data types. User-defined data types may be like classes like. Next one, in C exception is not present. Exception handling the mechanism is not present in C, but whereas in C++, this is one of the most important powerful feature added. Exception handling is done with try and catch blocks, and this handling of exception is nothing but a runtime error, and when it is occurred we should be handled, because otherwise the program may be terminate in the abnormal condition and it may leads to data inconsistencies of the programs. And next one, no virtual functions are present in C, but whereas the concept of virtual functions are used in C++, by using this virtual functions we can get some one of the principle like polymorphism, we can get this runtime, and this also gives some more advantages in the designing of the programs. Next one, in C polymorphism is not possible, but whereas this polymorphism is one of the important principle in C++. By using these different types of features in C++, and the developer made this language as more powerful in the designing of the complex programs or software designing. And these are the list of differences, mainly differentiate the C language or procedural and structural oriented programming language in the designing of programs, whereas this C is object oriented programming. Thank you.